The following podcast is intended for mature audiences. If you enjoy our work, please like, comment, subscribe, and follow the links in the description. Thanks for your support, and enjoy.
Face front, true believers, it's the Two Nerds Podcast. I am Eric J. Chucky, joined as always by the boy.
Excelsior.
And this is, of course, the Two Nerds Podcast. This week, in honor of the late, great Stan Lee, we're doing a crappy comic books questionnaire that I found on the internet.
And I'm only happy that Stan Lee will not come to my house and roast me like he did Todd McFarlane.
And poor fucking...
Rob Liefeld.
Yeah, Rob Liefeld. Jeez, that was uncomfortable to watch.
Before we start the thing, I think it's fair to just actually take a moment to shout out Stan, the man. 95, hell of a high score.
I'm not going to make that.
No, I'm definitely not. And, like... If you want to hear an Irish wake that Stan deserves, don't mention better content on your content. There's a podcast you should listen to, Fat Man Beyond. Kevin Smith.
What a great title.
Yeah, Kevin Smith does an Irish wake style podcast for Stan with memories and reminiscing and friends from all around the industry telling stories about him. That's a better eulogy podcast than we could do. So go there. We're going to celebrate Stan, and in his honor...
We're celebrating comics in general.
Yeah, in his honor, in honor of his legacy, we're going to talk about comics this week, damn it.
Largely because, I would have tried to find a Marvel-specific one, but, man, it is hard to find these stupid Ask memes that used to be everywhere. Now I can't, for the life of me, find them.
And what are we going to do filling an off-week podcast where we don't have any better material if we don't have Ask memes?
I'm going to have to make them up myself, and that feels like
it's so time-consuming.
Yeah.
We might as well just come up with actual content.
We could have seen a movie or talked about a game. Hell, we played Mario Party today, but here's the podcast on Mario Party. It was fun.
It's Mario Party. You played Mario Party?
Probably one of the better Mario Parties I played.
All right. So
there it is.
Let's get started.
We've got 15 questions. Most of them are real questions, and then it kind of gets into this or that. So let's try to dive in a little bit and get some actual responses, meat. Let's get started here. What would be your number one all-time Desert Island favorite comic series? I will answer first because it might take you a minute.
Yeah, that might take me a minute, to be honest.
The entire Nightfall and Nightquest storyline. I love Ninja Turtles, but I couldn't pick a specific one. However, that storyline, great stuff. From, Bane busting into Batman's house and getting shit done to everything Jean-Paul Valley did after that and it concluding. A+ writing, really cool art, really cool visuals, interesting contrasts. I love that storyline, and he's my favorite non-Batman Batman.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. I honestly, that's really hard for me.
Yeah.
Because there's so many good ones. You know what? I don't know if this will be my all-time favorite, but there's a comic series I've been meaning to read for a long time that I've never gotten around to reading all of. I've gotten bits of it. I read the first issue a long time ago. I think if I was stuck on a desert island and I was taking a comic series with me, I'd probably take American Alien.
Oh, yeah. that sounds like a good idea, actually.
Yeah, just because I would love to be able to, sit down and read that, and I could do it now, but there's so many other things to do.
I suppose if you mean series as in, titled magazine.
I mean, yeah, if you're talking, and they're going to, airdrop me new issues, I mean, there's only real one answer here. It's Batman.
I think Archie would keep it fresh for me. I'd get a lot of variety.
Yeah, you would. You definitely would.
I do like Archie comics. But, so there's the answer for question one, and that only took about a minute and a half. We're in trouble. Question two is, do you have a favorite comics creator? And while the answer seems like it, should be a gimme given the week, I'm not sure I have a hard answer for that one. As a personality, yeah, probably Stan.
I have a couple answers for this.
Sure, please talk, because I'm not really sure. Give me a minute to think about it.
All right. So first up, as a personality, as an envoy, as a champion for the industry, there's really no competition. Even were we not in the situation we're in, I would have answered Stan Lee.
Sure, definitely.
He's the chairman emeritus. He is comics in a real way. In terms of story, in terms of creating stories I like reading and think are really well thought out, it's Grant Morrison.
That's fair.
Because
Grant Morrison
I
always does some really cool shit.
genuinely never read a Grant Morrison comic I didn't love. And that's saying a lot. And in terms of art, because I feel like, comics is a visual medium that deserves being shouted out. I don't know that I have a favorite artist. There's a lot of artists I like, but I think for now I'm going to pencil in Jim Lee.
Okay. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I think Grant Morrison's a great answer. I think about the same amount of his stuff that I dislike is the same amount of Alan Moore's stuff that I dislike. So I'm going to stick with Alan Moore. I think, regardless of what you think about him as a person or his ethics or whatever, the works he has done are mostly phenomenal. Artist-wise is where I'm going to cheat. I'm going to pick a webcomic artist.
Oh, well, I don't think that's cheating.
Kelly Turnbull is the best. She's one of my favorite artists of all time.
Yeah.
She's got a really springy but still detailed style.
It's very fun, and as a writer artist combo, she's definitely
very
up there.
talented.
All right, number 3. Do you harbor any aspirations to create your own comics?
Well, it's funny you should ask that, listener, in this list you created. I swear on a stack of our podcast that this question was in the original questionnaire I cribbed it from. There was a lot of stuff in there about keeping trades and do you bag and board, and I'm like, I don't have physical comics anymore, man. I barely have digital ones. I'd really like to make a comic book. It's my next major career move, I guess. Fun
fact, we're actually going to be making the comic together as a writer-artist combo, which will be great. We're gonna team up on story, and then he'll do the art because I can't draw a straight line with a ruler in both hands.
I'm not doing much better. My digital art needs some work, but we'll figure it out one way or the other.
Don't look for it anytime soon, listener. But that meme Batman pointing at you. How's your webcomic? Eventually, we might have an answer for that.
I want to say sometime in 2019. It might be December 30th of 2019, but it'll get done. It's nothing new or genre defining. It's it's just more of the same, but it's my slice of the same, our slice of the same. And we have some cool, dumb ideas. Question 4. This is going to get some conversation, I think. Marvel or DC?
I think, you know what? I know that's the meme, and that's Stan's meme. Stan made that meme.
Yeah.
Make mine Marvel.
Yeah.
He made the distinguished competition. He made it a tribe you could sign up for. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, I've never thought it's a fair comparison. They when they're at their best, they truck in different materials.
Sure.
They're different products. I get different things out of them. It depends on what I want to read that week.
You're more the Jeff Goldblum, aren't they both comics?
Yeah. It's not just that they're both comics. I feel like Marvel and DC are at their best when they're not trying to occupy the same psychological space.
So, okay, let's analyze that question a bit, but actually answer it at the same time.
Yeah, because both are good is a cop-out.
What would you find yourself preferring more?
I can tell you, and anyone who's listened to the podcast will be able to sort of figure it out. I can tell you which type of story I have historically gravitated more towards, and that's DC. Because I think Marvel's at its best when it's telling stories about people. People first. What are their problems? What's wrong? What drives them emotionally before the powers, before the pomp and the circumstance? I feel like DC, and I've held this for a long time, is at its best, its absolute best when it's telling legends, when it's telling modern day myths more than stories about real people. And I gravitate more towards DC just historically. In non-comics media, I end up going more towards the Marvel route, but for whatever reason, Superman, Batman, they move me more than, the mighty Thor or Ant-Man.
Yeah, I fall on the other side of the line.
I know you do. That's why.
And the listener should as well. By this point, it's only been recently that I've really tried to get into DC. Now, I've loved Batman for a long, long time. But he was the exception, not the rule. And I think for obvious reasons.
It makes sense. He's the most Marvel DC hero.
Yeah, he really is. He's very human. It's about his struggles, and it's about the people he's with, and trying to help or having to fight. But I do like those smaller stories. I like the flawed heroes. I like the kind of things, we talked about that Todd McFarlane accidental roast.
Accidental.
But the questions Stan asks there in talking about who is this character and stuff.
How does he put on these clothes? Who is he when he takes off the outfit? What's the humor? What's the human element? Where's the hook? That shows how Stan thought. And that's how Marvel thinks, because Stan is Marvel.
They still do kind of follow in his legacy in that sense. And I mean, DC has that too. I mean, I think these days they're the closest they've ever been.
Yeah, I think so. I think they've merged together a lot over the years. I don't know that that's good for either company.
I feel like these days as well, Marvel handles a lot more young properties, whereas DC still has a lot more adults being heroes.
Or if they don't handle more young properties, they handle a lot more properties that they're very much angling towards trying to freshen up their line at this point.
Sure.
In the same way DC did several years ago with the New 52. They're running in cycles. DC will hit another one soon.
Yeah, I'm sooner than I think, I believe. But I do appreciate DC, and I do, like, for me, at the end of the day, it's about the characters, and if I stacked them up, which DC characters appeal to me and which Marvel characters appeal to me, the Marvel side would be higher.
I can say that, honestly, the MCU probably has moved this needle a lot for me.
I'd agree, because a lot of the mainstay heroes, the core Avengers and that kind of thing, flew under my radar years ago. But now they feel better. Iron Man isn't a meme about being a drunken idiot. He's a relatable and enjoyable character.
Yeah, Captain America isn't, a really good, nice, a good hero that I kind of slept on. Dude, Chris Evans has worked magic with that character. He really made him come alive. And Cap he's probably right up there with my favorite superheroes at this point.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's an answer. And
I feel like that's a strong answer, yeah.
You ended up make mine Marvel. I ended up with the distinguished competition.
So, Superman or Batman?
Batman, duh.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Well, like in a fight?
No, it's preferential.
Yeah, it's Batman.
Sometimes I wonder what would have happened to Superman if he kept his 90s hair.
Like his glorious mullet.
His mane. But no, we've talked enough about Batman over the series of this podcast.
And we talked a lot about Clark as well.
Sure, and the contrast.
But, I mean, at the end of the day, I find one to be a more compelling character. That doesn't mean the other one's bad. No. I don't think Superman is boring. No. But I do find one to be more compelling.
So, this one I thought was interesting out of all the comparison questions. Spider-Man or Wolverine?
That's an interesting question. I know my answer, but it is an interesting question. I want to hear yours first, though.
That's tough. Like, my heart, the child within me, 100% easy says Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, yeah, I've been a fan for longer, and my love for him runs more deeply. And most of the versions of Spider-Man, even if they're not Peter Parker, I still love. Like,
Yeah, there are very few Spider-Men you don't like.
right. I think they're all really super neat. And
All Spider-Men are good Spider-Men.
yeah.
Even when they're Batman.
Ironically, the one I'm a little less fond of. And I love Wolverine as a character, I do. But he started out, I was a young kid. I was in that period where I was like, hey, it's popular, therefore it sucks.
And Wolverine was in every comic book that existed
Sure.
at that exact time frame.
Now, Spider-Man, I did have a falling out with him after the whole Mephisto bullshit, nonsense, one more day crap. And
Comics are stupid. I love them.
And even the cinematic Spider-Man I had to step away from with the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, trellis face movies.
But you know what? I'm glad I did, because now he's in the MCU. And maybe my ticket wasn't the only one that helped, or yours wasn't the only one that helped, but they were part of it.
And good, because boy howdy is the MCU version amazing.
Yeah.
And yes, is, not was. Come on.
I
guys.
mean...
Come on.
Everybody knows Far From Home
It's
coming out.
comics.
But anyway,
Nobody stays dead except Gwen Stacy and Uncle Ben, and that's not even true anymore.
so would you say the same?
I really love Wolverine as a character. I love the character. I love what he does. He's the best there is at it.
Thank you. If you weren't gonna, I was.
I love all the bits and bobs about him and all the weird, like, that he's a weeb, I guess, parts. And
I'm not a weeb, I was there.
I really genuinely enjoy most Wolverine stories, and I love X-23, but the other one is Spider-Man.
That's a fair thing to mention, though. Most Wolverines are good Wolverines, too.
Most, not all. Dokken exists.
But we got Honey Badger, so that kind of balances it out. We have Sabretooth,
yeah.
who's basically just a Wolverine.
But bad. But the other one is
Like the
Spider-Man.
Power Glove.
He's Spider-Man.
Yeah, he's Spidey. He's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. How can you hate that? I don't know. I can't deflate the childhood hero in me for the cool, edgy 90s guy.
Yeah, no, at the end of the day, I love Wolverine. You can make amazing stories with Wolverine. The movie Logan is maybe one of the best westerns I've ever seen. But the other one is Spider-Man. There's no competition here.
All right, well, question 7 here. Iron Fist or Luke Cage?
We're talking comics.
We're
right?
talking comics.
I don't have to judge this on the Netflix
Nope,
series,
you sure
right?
don't.
Yeah, I mean it's still Luke Cage,
Sure
but it's a
is.
lot closer.
I like Danny Rand.
Danny Rand is a fun character. He's a fun character. Luke Cage is an amazing character. There's
Luke
a
Cage
difference.
is great. I have nothing more to say about that.
He's got, on average, he's got better writing.
Yeah.
He's got a much more interesting and relatable backstory.
Yes.
He's got a lot more wrinkles to the character that make telling stories with him just straight up easier.
He's got better villains.
He's got better villains.
got
Villains.
villains.
That's Iron Fist has villains.
Like 4.
But
The rest are Luke Cage villains.
yeah.
One I'm pretty sure is Doctor Who.
Oh, but like, and Luke Cage's supporting cast is better than Iron Fist's.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too.
It's just, I wish we could go into more detail because we've got so much podcast to fill. But moving
we
on.
got it. We're gonna be all right. Comic book Nick Fury or Sam Jackson Nick Fury, and I'm sure they mean by comic book Nick Fury the classic,
Regular or ultimate Nick
the
Fury.
Howling Commandos Nick Fury.
Yeah, it's white guy with eye patch, black guy with eye patch. That's another thing.
That's a tough call.
Both characters have their place.
Yeah.
I think the ultimate question I have for that is, what am I expecting out of this Nick Fury? Do I want him to be a obstacle or an ally? Because if I'm reading a story where Nick Fury is an obstacle, I want it to be classic Nick Fury. Because classic Nick Fury, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., is traditionally usually more of an obstacle than an ally. He's traditionally someone you have to deal with, not someone who's helping you.
Right.
Whereas Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Fury, is big damn heroes. Like, he is the guy who shows up in the third act and pulls your buns out of the fire. And he does it with swagger and class.
I agree with that. I just think in general, unless it is literally Howling Commandos era Nick Fury. Then that's a little tougher because we're only like a hop, skip, and a jump away from Big Boss.
That's really fair.
Yeah.
Howling Commandos Nick Fury is essentially Naked Snake.
But I think on average, I prefer Sam Jackson and his similar interpretations in the comic books. He's just more personable.
Like I said, he's a better ally.
Yeah.
Nick Fury, the classic Nick Fury always comes across skeevy as an ally. Like, yeah, he's allied with you, but why, though?
Yeah.
Whereas Ultimate Nick Fury, that is to say the Samuel L. Jackson version, because they're basically the same, is much closer to, I mean, he's on our side because he's one of the good guys. He does some shady shit, but at the end of the day, he's one of the good guys. I love both characters. I think they have different places. Samuel L. Jackson has better one-liners, so I guess he wins by default.
There you go. This is kind of a callback, so I feel like it's going to be a short question. Superhero or real-life stories?
Superhero? What?
Like, as in stories of titans and gods, or, I have to make sure I get the papers delivered before I can do my superhero stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think I went pretty deep on this up in question 4, Marvel or DC. At the end of the day, for comic books, and this is not something I've thought about before, because in fiction I often delve towards the Marvel side of things. My favorite protagonists are much more down to earth in books and stuff. But and for whatever reason, for comics, I want to see superheroes. I want to see them punch evil in its turkey fucking neck, man.
I prefer the realistic stuff. Well, realistic, but like the more truer to life, the more down to earth, like you said. That doesn't mean there's not a place for the larger than life shit. I like that too, but most of my favorite stuff is street level, as it were. So the question here is Golden Age, Silver Age, or Modern Age?
Secret option D, some from all of them, but on the average, not any of them.
Yeah, like that's, I'm actually just going to flat out say Modern Age. Because a lot of the reasons I found a lot of comic book heroes boring is because of their stuff from the Golden and Silver Age. Now, I'm not going to say there's not good comics there. The big ones, the big storylines, the huge important shit, sure.
But the day-to-day is either boring or wacky.
Yeah.
Depending on if you're talking Golden or Silver.
Like, I mean, look at Batman and Captain America alone. Like, a lot of that stuff is sort of a riff. I like the potential of the modern age, and I don't think anybody's doing a great job of consistently fulfilling it, but I just see, not just in Marvel and DC, but in comics in general, I am so glad to see so many options.
Yeah, you know what? I think the modern age wins by virtue of the reproliferation of comics.
Yes, I agree.
Because the golden age had a proliferation of comics from many different companies, and many of them went under in the silver age, and that's when you really got your big two.
I mean, but it's a lot of those eras, as much as those classic stories are important and the foundation for the modern age.
They were weird.
They were throwing crap at the wall to see what stuck. Now we have a better idea of what a comic book is.
Yeah,
so
the
people can
medium
refine
is
that
more.
concept.
The medium is more. It has aged a bit, and through that aging, what works and what doesn't is much clearer.
Mm-hmm. And you can elect to subvert it and create some really interesting stuff too.
But the reason I have trouble with this question is that I don't want to conflate the modern age with modern comics. For the big two, a lot of modern comics leave me sort of cold. Like, of this particular era, today, they leave me sort of high and dry. But on the whole, the reproliferation of comics, the redemocratization of the medium, I think, makes modern the winner.
So here's another interesting one here. Digital or paper?
Digital.
I have a hard time reading digital comics, but paper ones are so expensive and take up space.
Digital comics, I'm never going to accidentally leave digital comics in a box somewhere and move out. Or my cat isn't going to knock over a bunch of liquid onto my digital comics. Or if they do, I can just re-download them from whatever, device.
I mean, that's fair. And it's, you can get a better zoom in if you want to really check out the art.
Yeah,
and
I can.
style.
The art is crisper and cleaner, and I can read the comic book without having to worry about fucking it up and ruining its value. It's a digital file. It has no intrinsic value, really, which I'd rather do. I don't like the anxiety of, I'm fucking with the quality on this. I've never liked that. It bothers me. So digital is not even a contest for me.
I'd like to say that there is something for reading a paper comic.
See,
There's
I grew up
something
reading.
about the aesthetic of it.
I grew up reading fan fiction online.
Sure.
Reading through digital medium is how I grew up. So I enjoy a good paper book, but I don't have that attachment to the paper that many people who are bibliophiles in one form or another do.
Well, and let me mention it for this reason as well. I feel like I've mentioned this on the podcast previously too, but you say you don't want the anxiety of all that. That's kind of a very personal, intrinsic reason for that. The reason I like paper a little bit more is because it lets me focus a lot easier.
Yeah, it gives you something tactile that your brain can rate as important.
That I cannot also turn into Twitter.
Yeah, that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
I don't know that means I prefer it.
My reasons are deeply personal. I mean,
yeah, but I there is something about it. Like I would just clearly say digital if it weren't for that. That makes it. I'm not sure I can decide on that one. Next question: Gotham or New York?
I think this is just sort of it's not a repeat of superhero or real life. I think there's two questions there. The surface, the stylized nature of Gotham versus, the very grounded nature of New York. And the second is, do you want to see more fictionalized stuff, or do you want to see more like grounded in terms of detail stuff, like art or story? I think are separated. And on the one hand, I really love Gotham art. I think the more stylized look of things is really nice. New York is mostly gray boxes.
When they paint city skylines and stuff, yeah. But like, I've been doing a lot of urban exploration of New York through the internet lately, and gosh, it's quaint.
But in terms of story, I think is the more interesting question. Do you prefer to use like fictionalized locations or real locations that the reader can ground themselves in? Oh, they're in the Bronx. I know where the Bronx is. I know exactly where they are. If they go 3 streets up, there's going to be a deli there.
As a writer, I'd prefer to use New York. It's 6 1 half dozen another there
because then you have a whole bunch of people who, if you get the tiny detail wrong,
right. But you also have a whole bunch of people that if you get those tiny details right, you score points. Mm-hmm. Whereas on the other hand, you might not actually create a coherent map unless you do, and then you're sort of making the full map before you write any stories and blah 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 blah. My initial answer to the question, like just on being offered that, honestly, is Gotham. I like the atmosphere. I like the art style. I like what it represents. I like the parts of New York that I would use that are Gotham.
Basically, I mean, that's basically my answer as well.
Yeah.
It's, at the end of the day, New York is really, it's nice to have like a very solid, here's this place. But I've never been to New York, so it doesn't mean anything more to me than Gotham would. In a lot of ways, it means less. I know more about Crime Alley than I do about 106th and wherever. So, Gotham.
All right. Hero or villain?
Do you mean like which one am I, or which one do I prefer?
I think it's a preference thing.
Oh.
Let's not disclose that in the podcast.
That's fair enough. Ooh, that's... Like, I want to be pithy, but that's a really hard question.
It is. I like characters. Like, it's not... I'm not just going to root for the face or the heel because... I think on average, I have an easier time getting behind a hero.
Yeah, because normally the villain's a dickweed.
Right. A lot of them are very, like, cookie cutter and stuff. But man, there are some charismatic damn villains. Like,
and for me, it's not even about them being charismatic. There are some incredibly well drawn characters.
Oh, sure.
I think a well done Lex Luthor is possibly one of the most well made characters in fiction.
Sure, I'd agree. Like I probably like Lex more than I like Superman, so long as you keep him out of his stupid robot suit.
The robot suit ruins what's best about Lex.
It does. It instantly does. Yeah, I that's villain going on a redemptive arc. I'm going to secret option see that one. I would say that's probably my favorite, as long as they've actually earned it.
At the end of the day, I think I'm going to go hero, but anyone who's familiar with the writing I've put on the internet knows I'm very fond of villains.
Here's a Disney question: capes or no capes?
No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing the meme. I'm not doing the meme. The meme is strong. I'm not doing the meme because capes.
Capes. They're cool. They're flowy. They look good. They're fun to draw.
They're fun to draw. They're fun to watch move in movies. Are they practical? No. Are they realistic? No. You know what else isn't realistic? Man flies, punches meteor. Man puts on bat suit, beats up crime. Capes don't have to be realistic. It's a fucking comic book. They're much better visually. It's just not a contest.
And for an equally arbitrary final question, and this was literally the final question where I swiped it from as well. Which, I mean, we usually give credit for that. Let me be honest here. Oh, I've already closed the window. Never mind. Sorry, pal. It was some website and he stole it from elsewhere anyway and didn't credit, so blame him. Cowl or domino mask?
So much of comics is preferential because there's reasons for both. But if I'm being 100% honest, cowl.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You like the hood?
It's the eyes, really. A good cowl allows you to be much more visually expressive with eyes because you can draw outside the lines with the white. You can do that with domino mask too, but then you have the rest of the face to work with, so you don't need to. It makes it more challenging to convey emotion, and I therefore really like it more when it's done well.
I'm going to say domino mask for one reason.
Okay.
Because I think they're about even up until you try to view the cowl from other angles than the preferred ones. And I know it's a visual medium, you get to decide on those angles, but a cowl looks stupid in a lot of situations.
A cowl looks... It can look stupid if presented poorly.
Yeah.
A domino mask has a similar problem in that there's a big party that just goes, man, you know that guy. Like,
nah, it's that Flash. It's that episode of the Justice League. Now I can finally find out who the Flash is. Oh, I have no idea who this is.
and honestly, if you've ever seen anyone in a domino mask, you'd be surprised how unrecognizable
how
it makes
weird
them.
It
unless they're very unique looking.
Or have a specific beard or something.
Yeah. Yes. Or if they have a specific facial hair that makes it really easy to tell who they are. Oliver.
So that was 15 questions that we managed to take up the time of podcast takes to write.
Because it's important to recognize when something's important. And comics are important. They're our modern day myths. They are America's legends. They are our pop culture and in a lot of ways our culture. They're what a lot of people base a fair amount of their personality and morality around. The Tao of Peter Parker has genuine adherents in this world. Comics are important. And it's necessary to, given the situation, take a moment to recognize that.
Comics are from where the over-the-top, larger-than-life characters of professional wrestling, another one of our long-held favorite pastimes, come from. Comics taught me to love an individual character who might be a background person and really celebrate who they were and when they got to show up. They're formative. They are an important building block of our society, specifically in America and across the world. And it's that quote from BoJack Horseman. They give you context through which to view your life.
Enough said.
Fuck it, let's get hardcore!